Hi there, I am Sarah Colas. Welcome to the Dressing Up podcast, where we talk about all things bridal, dresses, and general dressing up topics. I love to encourage women to dress up while expressing their personal style with confidence on how to do so. Visit sarahcolas.com to book a bridal alterations fitting or even inquire about designing the custom couture bridal gown of your dreams. I'm so excited to talk to you about this next topic. Let's get started. I'm about to chat with Jennie Wiegand. She owns a wedding planning company in the Metro Detroit area called Beautiful Day Planning. She has a big team of people. So if you are a bride listening to this, you haven't booked your coordinator or planner yet, she is always taking last minute bookings. I was lucky enough to meet two of her team members this year for various reasons. So I just can't say enough good things about her company. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, welcome back to another episode. Today we have a special guest. She's the owner of Beautiful Day Planning. This is our guest, Jennie Wiegand.
Good morning, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here on the podcast. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good way to start the morning off.
Bright and early Monday morning. So
Yes.
can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your business and how you got started in this career.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, my name's Jennie Wiegand. I am the owner and one of the planners, Beautiful Day Planning. We're located in Rochester. We offer everything from month of coordination all the way up to full service, all inclusive planning and kind of everything in between. So, we run about typically years about 60 to 70 weddings and events a year. The vast majority of our business is weddings, but we do have a smattering of personal and small business events in there, which is kind of nice as well. We have a team of 7 of us that plan and coordinate weddings at the company. And then we have anywhere from 12 to 20 assistants, depending on the time of year and how chaotic things are.
I think something unique about your business is that you have a very big team.
I do. Yeah,
That
I have
is,
a very big team. And
yeah.
you know what's funny? I guess too, going back to like how it started, I was working full time in the automotive industry and I had always like kicked around planning. I had planned my own wedding, obviously, and done some stuff for friends and family. And I really, really loved it. And then in late '08, when the auto industry just tanked, everything started going really badly. I got offered a buyout from the one of the big 3 that I was at the time. And, talked it over with my husband and he was like, you know what, if you want to try this, now's the time to do it. Like you got the startup money, just go for it, try it. So it was funny because I was like teetering back and forth. And I came home from work one of my last days at the auto company and he handed me a piece of paper and he had bought beautifuldayplanning.com. And he was like, I made the decision for you. You need to do this. And it was like one of the coolest things he's ever done because it was like that last little like kick I needed to just try it. You know what I mean?
You just
So
got
it was,
pushed right into it. That's
yeah,
great.
he just shoved me. He's like, you know what? Now, if you're gonna try it now. So stopped looking for auto jobs and started doing this, full time, dedicated myself to it. Started in January 2009. And honestly, I didn't know that it would get to be what it is. I knew I loved it. I, felt like I was good at it, but it just snowballed. And it's funny because I feel like I started at a very bad time to start a business. We were in a recession, things were very rough in 2009, but in some ways it was kind of perfect because I started at the low end. And then as the economy recovered, I had built up experience and I was able to kind of ride the wave up rather than, having been at the top and then have that crash and have to kind of navigate your way through that. So it was actually ended up being a good time to start, but we just started getting more and more work and I started needing help and it just kind of snowballed. Like I, brought one person on as an assistant, realized I had too much work, so I made her a coordinator, and then it just kind of has gone from there. Pretty much every single person on my team started as an assistant and has worked their way up in the company.
Wow, that is really fascinating. I kind of think you're really right that starting during such a slow time was probably perfect because you didn't get too overwhelmed. You just kind of coasted with them. What did you do in the auto industry?
When I left, I was a buyer for seats. So I was in like procurement and supply. I have a finance degree actually, and worked in procurement and supply, and then did a complete left turn and started planning weddings. I always laugh when people talk about like, oh, well, I did this in college. And I'm like, yeah, I was a finance major. I did get my master's in entrepreneurship because by then I had kind of started kicking around starting a business. So that at least pertains. And the finance helps, obviously, with budgeting and things like that, but
Yeah,
still a
absolutely.
little bit of a left turn from where I started.
That is so crazy. You probably don't know this, but I worked in the auto industry too. I
Did
also
you?
worked in seating. Yeah.
No way. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's fantastic. Like
Another life
engineering
of
or
like
like,
cross paths there.
yeah, yeah. Were you on like the engineering side or like
Yes,
procurement?
I was on the engineering side. I was a trim engineer, so I designed the patterns for the car seats. I worked at
Yes.
Lear and then Adient, which used to be Johnson
Okay.
Controls. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that is so funny. Yeah, Lear was one of my suppliers. That's what JCI was too.
yeah, yeah.
They were for a while too. Yeah, right when I left. I wasn't in the seating job that long. I think it was there about a year before I
Okay.
left. So it was a
Um,
relatively new position at the company for me, but that's so funny.
wow.
See, and
Small
you
world.
switch to this. See,
Yes.
lots of us take random left turns in our careers, right?
Yeah, for me, it was like year '08 was like my COVID, as with many wedding vendors today.
Yes.
I started my business in 2012, but I like launched it, like went so hardcore in 2022. So
That's
that's when I
awesome.
left. So that was also like a good time to leave because it was right before things like
Yes.
boomed up.
Yeah. Yeah. You caught the swing up. That was a good idea. That was
Yeah.
a good idea. Good timing.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, if I don't do it now, I'm never doing it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
And 2022 is it was an interesting year. 21 and 22 both were, you know?
from my memory, at least with my business, like 2022, okay, you know how in the wedding industry, there's these little like Christmas parties or networking events you
Yeah.
go to? So I kept
Yeah.
asking people when I still worked in the auto industry, I'm like, what's next year looking like? Because
Hmm.
my brides book me 4 months out. So I'm like, how busy
Yeah.
are you guys? They're like, it's going to be busy. And I'm like, okay. So then I quit my auto industry job in February. So I had those couple months,
Yeah.
but 2022 was absolutely crazy, crazy, crazy busy. But then 2023 was even busier. So
I know. I feel like we've been in this boom since 22, really. Even
yeah.
last year, I mean, we did 81 weddings and events last year, which is a lot for us. Like I said, we typically sit at 60 to 70 and we had 81. So, yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see if it's going to like level back out to more
Yeah,
of a normal or if this is just our new norm. It's going to be
I
kind of
know.
interesting.
Well, don't jinx it. I hope
I
it.
know. Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll
But
just keep
rest
going
is
on
a
the
good
path.
thing
Yeah.
too. So I'll just ride whatever wave the wedding industry
Yes,
takes.
absolutely. I'm with you.
Oh, that's so funny. Do you feel like happy that you had that experience in the auto industry though? Like, have you been able to like transfer skills over, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad I did it. I was third generation at Chrysler. So I was, both my grandfathers worked there. My dad retired from there. So it always felt like where I would end up. I didn't expect to ever leave it. But, that's just kind of the way things have gone and the way, everything kind of worked out, like the auto industry as a whole. So yeah, I am glad. I think I learned a lot being in corporate life too, that I always thought it was my thing. Honestly, I kind of started the company a little bit as a resume gap filler when my kids were little. So I could do this, I could still be home with them. And then, it was a lot of nights and weekends, but then they were just home with my husband. So I kind of thought it was going to be a resume gap filler. And then I realized how much I loved it. And I was like, I don't want to sit in an office Monday through Friday. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, but I always laugh at that. Have you seen that meme where it's like, I left corporate so I could now work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and now I work 24/7. And I'm like, that's the truth. It's a trade-off.
I know. I'm sure people say this to you. They're like, that's so great. You're an entrepreneur. You can just like make your own hours. And I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
left the 9 to 5 to work 24/7. Yep. Those
Yeah,
are my
it's
hours.
great. It's great. I mean, I have to admit, there's definitely pluses to like,
Yeah.
you know how it is. You call to make a doctor's appointment. They're like, when are you available? And I'm like, just whenever. Like, when do you
Yeah.
have open? Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. I can.
Yeah.
So that's the massive upside. But I learned the hard way a few years into business. I took a trip to my parents' house place in Skoda over on Lake Huron. And it was like middle of wedding season. And I was like, I need a break. I need a
Mhm.
breather. I'm going up there. I'm not taking anything with me. Like, I'm going to disconnect for a
Yeah.
week. And it was a very hard lesson to learn because stuff started going wrong for the wedding I had like a week and a half later. And like 4 days into the trip, I ended up having to drive home because it was like I didn't have anything on me. I didn't even have my computer. And there's only so much you can do from your phone to a
Yeah.
certain extent.
Yeah.
So I have to admit, like from that point forward, I've never traveled without my laptop again,
Yeah.
ever. Like, nope, you come with me.
Yeah. Not worth it.
Not worth it. Nope.
I always have great sympathy, especially I do consider myself a wedding vendor, but I'm not often at the
Oh, yeah.
weddings. I do my day of styling service, which is more rare,
Mhm.
but I know people like you and your assistants and coordinators, they all work on the wedding day every weekend. So I have a lot of
Yeah.
sympathy for you.
but just I think it's great for people listening to acknowledge how many sacrifices are made by
Mhm.
day of wedding workers. I mean, the list goes on, but especially like missing out on your own friends or family members' weddings because you already
Oh
booked
yeah.
somebody. There's just a lot of sacrifices that you guys make. So I just
Yeah,
want to make
there
sure
is.
you're aware of that.
It's funny when I interview people for the assistant jobs, I kind of put that bug in their ear. I'm like, you got to realize, like, not as much as an assistant. I don't assign weddings to them till like 6 to 12 months out because I don't want them to have to deal with that as much. But like me and my coordinators, like you're booking your life 18 to 24 months ahead of time, and you will inevitably miss things. Like you said, I mean, I have missed countless graduation parties and birthdays. I've missed a handful of cousins' weddings, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's part of the job. I'm fortunate that I personally don't do quite as many weddings as I used to. So I do have a little more flexibility and, not flexibility, but I have more weekends where I'm off, than some of the other people on my team. But there were a lot of years I didn't. And it used to be a joke because if I showed up to a family event in the summer, they'd be like, oh my gosh, why are you here?
What's your name?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I actually had a weekend off. Isn't that weird?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, I hear ya. That is a tough life to live that way too. And you feel this too, I know, but I feel very seasonal. So it's like I feel like I mentally put all of my weekends in the
Mhm.
winter time and I just like work every single day in the busy season. But I've even found just seasonally, like friends and family members, like everyone hibernates in January, February, March. Like no one wants to leave their
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
Like you make plans and they're like, it's too cold out. I don't want to go. And I'm like, but
No.
I can't see you the rest of the year.
But I can actually go. Yeah, the only good thing is it works out well for vacations
Oh,
because
yeah.
then we can take off while the weather's horrible here.
There's only so many trips to the Caribbean I even want to take. There's
Yeah.
places I want to go that's like most beautiful in the summer, like going out west or like anywhere in Europe.
Yeah, it's true.
But we make it work. But yes, our winter
Make it
vacations
work.
are very relaxing.
They are. They are. Yeah. Get to take a little bit of a breather, right?
Yeah. All right, moving on, back on topic. I want to talk about trust a little bit because you have so much experience being in the wedding industry. How does trust play a role when working with your couples?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different facets to that. First of all, my relationship with my clients is a big one. It takes a little while, but eventually you do establish that trust. They learn to, really trust you, understand that you know what you're doing, kind of take your advice more. The most fun parts to me about working with repeat families is that if I'm doing a second or third wedding for this family, it's like you have the trust from the first moment. I've been floored because I have had clients call me and be like, hey, we're booking a wedding at this venue, we have this day or this day, which one are you open? And I'm like, you're picking your wedding day based on me? Like,
That is
it's so
amazing.
cool. Yeah, and it's, so that's fun when you get that experience. I just feel like you can hit the ground running. They know you, they trust you, and it just makes the process go a lot faster. But I totally understand with new clients, it does take a little time to build that trust. I think it's partly established from, the first pitch meeting you do with them. They can tell that you know what you're talking about. You have the experience. Hopefully, you've worked at their venue before and can have an intelligent conversation about the spaces, and it kind of grows from there. But I think another huge element of trust in my position specifically is my trust in my vendors. Because when you have a very high end wedding, they're usually much more intricate, much more involved, and you have to rely on the vendors a lot more in situations like that. If we're at the DIA, we have 2.5 hours to set everything up. And everybody has to be doing their jobs, or that's not going to happen. And so it's nice to have been in the industry as long as I have to have built like that mutual trust with the vendors because it just makes situations like that so much easier. And it goes both ways. I can trust them to do their job and they can trust me to do mine. And, it makes for a really good team and better experience overall.
Yeah. How do most of your couples find you?
Now the vast majority is past clients and vendors and venues. I've hit the point, fortunately, where I really don't do much marketing at all. Don't need to. We stay really busy just from those sources, which is great because, again, it kind of plays into the trust thing. Even if I haven't worked with that family before, if they're like, I've had people call me and they're like, oh, three different people recommended me to you. And we look and they're like, past brides, but like they don't even know each other. So it's cool because I feel like once you've been doing it long enough, you start to build these weird webs of connections to people. And I've had clients where halfway through their planning process, they're like, oh my gosh, one of my bridesmaids was, one of your other coordinators was her wedding coordinator. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Sounds good.
That's awesome. You've built that web of network. It
Yeah,
it makes everything so much smoother.
it does. And it makes it more enjoyable. Like I love that, I did a wedding last December and Nate Johnson from J&N was the photographer and I hadn't seen him in a while. And it was like he came into the bridal suite. I was like, Nate. And I just ran up and he just picked me up in this bear hug. And like our bride just busted out laughing. She was like, I love this. And I'm like, I just love Nate. Like just makes it more fun, especially for, when we're all there and a lot of us are there, 12 plus hours with each other. So more
Yes.
fun with you like each other.
Yeah, I do feel like a lot of wedding vendors, we have like this, like, I feel like it's like a distant cousins relationship where we don't see you that much, but when we
Yes.
do, it's like we just click, we're
Yes.
vibing, we're good. I love it.
Yes, I love that. You're just like, yeah. I know sometimes I see like vendors, I'm like, yeah, it's so good to see you. And then we realize we haven't worked a wedding together in like 18 months. And it's
Yeah.
like, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
You're right. It's
Yeah.
just, and I always have said like, and I'm sure you see this too. I feel like we're very fortunate in Detroit. I think we legitimately have an extremely good industry. It's a tight knit group. Everybody plays well with others. They get along well. I feel like there's competition, but it's like friendly competition where if I go against the same group of planners every single time, sometimes I get it, sometimes somebody else gets it. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. Let me know how that wedding turns out. There's been numerous cases where we've known we were talking to the same person and like no hard feelings.
That is the best energy. I do truly feel like, and it's not like we're biased or anything, but the Detroit wedding
Yeah.
industry is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just enough vendors of us. And yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. It's very much a teamwork atmosphere. And we have some incredible, gorgeous venues to work with and
Yes.
some really awesome people, really great couples. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, everyone just wants a wonderful day, possibly a
I
beautiful
know.
day.
Beautiful day. Yeah. It works out well.
Yeah. I feel you though with the trust, just working with my brides and working on their dresses. Trust is
Oh
everything,
man.
especially as
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel this too. Like what we do on the back end, like AKA for me, sewing. These brides know nothing about sewing. So all they have to go
Oh
off
yeah.
of is if they just trust me as a person or not. So that is really important. So if you're listening to this and coming for a fitting soon, just please just be transparent with me and
And
um
Sarah's got you. No, Sarah's
I
got you.
yeah, anything I can do to make
Yeah.
you comfortable is very important.
Oh my gosh, especially when I know you do a lot with the vintage stuff now too. And I mean, handing like your mother's wedding dress over to someone, like it's bad enough if it's your own and it's brand new and you're really connected to it, but like, here's my mom's dress from, the 70s.
Uh,
Like,
I had
oh, it's so
two.
much pressure, Sarah.
It is so much pressure. I had two dresses last year, specifically from the 1940s, which is like
Oh
it's like
my
disappearing
gosh.
away. And now you want me to take scissors to it. But
Oh
I agree we
no.
should do it. But yeah,
Does it
it
never make your heart like hurt though? Like when you go to cut something like that? Like,
no,
oh,
because I know the alternative is that that dress will end up in the
true.
landfill someday.
You're right. You're
That's
right. Or just wither away in a
just a matter
box.
of time. But yeah, people always ask me, like, aren't you scared to work on wedding dresses? And I'm like, honestly, no, because I've sewn and cut up so many of them now. I'm really not nervous, but I still
Yeah.
get nervous about the vintage dresses because I'm like, this is truly irreplaceable. You know, the saying, like, measure 3 times, cut once. For me,
Oh
it's
yeah.
measure 4 times, cut once.
Oh
So
yeah.
I
Oh
always
my
like
gosh.
take the scissors to it, but then I pause and I'm like, okay, let's relook at it one more time. Okay,
Oh.
we're good. Now
Oh, I
I'm
give you
paranoid.
such props. That would make me so nervous. I guess luckily the cutting is probably the one part that you always have to be careful. But I mean, that's the one part you could go south real quick. Like at least most other things you could probably fix, right? If you do something
Yeah.
you're not liking the way it
Oh,
looks, you
right.
can pull the stitches out and
It's typically
yeah.
just the hem, or if you like, I
Mhm.
mean, honestly, even if you want to cut the sleeves off your dress, I'm just cutting stitches. So, like, you could always put those
Yeah,
back
true.
on. So, typically it is like the hem, but it's so funny that, especially the young girls that get in here, the young brides, they want
Yeah.
those itty bitty mini, like,
Oh
take their
yeah.
mom's dress and like
Yeah.
chop it super short. And that's where I get nervous because I'm like, what if she thinks it's too short? She told me she wants it this
Yeah.
way, but I'm like,
But
still,
once
this
it's
is
gone, it's
short.
gone. Yeah.
But they look cute. They look really cute.
Yeah. Oh, I love that trend. That is really cute. I love the parents' wedding dress popping back up. I think it's adorable.
It is so fun. I hope it's around to stay. But
Yeah, I think it will be as long as we have people like you that are talented and can work with them well. I think it'll be around for a while at least.
yeah. Everyone saves their wedding dress. So you got to do something
Mhm.
something with it at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Or it just sits in a box, right?
I do want to say this little tidbit too, just for our listeners, but also just
Hmm.
for your own knowledge. I think people think like you save your wedding dress forever, but then you only have boys. Like you don't have any daughters.
Yeah,
And you're like, I don't know if I want my daughter-in-law to take it or whatever. Maybe that doesn't happen, but just
hmm,
don't forget that you might have granddaughters and they might want it. So
absolutely.
keep
Yeah.
saving it. I encourage hoarding.
Yeah, like your dresses from the 40s, like those aren't popping up. Those are the grandmas.
Yeah.
So
Like
it's a
wearing
very
your
valid
grandma's
point.
dress is just as special. So
Yeah,
anyway.
I think it's cool when you can find something. I know I didn't do anything with my dress, but I had my veil cut into two veils because I have two daughters, and I had my veil cut and made into communion veils for them.
Oh
So
my
they
God.
each wore half of my wedding veil when they made their first communion, which I thought was cool. Because
That
it was
is
like a way to incorporate it, without
yeah.
like necessarily cutting my dress apart.
And in reality, they could wear them again on their wedding day. I'm sure they weren't like
Yeah.
crazy short, like you probably could.
No. No, they probably could get away with it.
Oh, that's amazing. So how many kids do you have?
I have two daughters. So
The
I always
best.
tell my husband I have to keep doing this till we marry them off.
So right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about a personality trait that I think a lot of wedding vendors have, which is calmness.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, right?
And how is that important with wedding planning and coordinating?
We have to be calm at all times, even during the planning. Planning is a little easier because you have time to react and a lot of it's over, emails and it's not quite as in the moment. But we always try to project calm and, competence and I got you. Don't worry. And then the day of the wedding, we just all have game face, man. Like I have had situations where I have had crazy stuff going on in the background and I am standing in front of my bride and my couple has no clue what's happening. And they're like, how's everything going? I'm like, it's great. Everything's great. Like, your cake just fell over and lost a tear, but like, you don't need to know about that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's fantastic to be able to do that though. It's funny because, like you said earlier about you've done it so many times, you don't really get as nervous anymore. That's how I feel about weddings. People always ask me, do you get nervous? And I'm like, I did the first few years, but no, because I've had such crazy stuff go wrong. And like we have always figured something out that now I'm like, it's fine. Like we'll figure something out, which makes it easier to project that calm to my couples too, even if something is happening. And I think it's even more valuable if you are in a situation where they do know what's going on, and you're able to project this sense of calm where,
Yeah.
they know something's going south and it's like, don't worry, I got you. Like we'll figure this out. Something's going to change, but there's gonna be three people in this entire wedding that know we changed something, you two and me. And that's pretty much it. Like nobody else is even gonna know. So I think it's critical for all vendors. All of us have to be. And you've probably seen it, like especially in your day of, services. Like I'm sure you've seen brides walk in with like a stain. And in your head, you're like, oh my God, how am I
Yep.
getting that out?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But on your face, you're like, I got you. Don't
Yeah.
worry. I've done this before. It's fine.
Especially if they're outdoor first looks, which they usually are, tend to get the dress pretty dirty. I got some goose poop out recently. That was
Oh
added to that to my
man.
resume. So
How'd you do that? Because I feel like I need to know this.
yeah, actually it is a great thing to know. So I always carry white washcloths with me in my
Yeah.
backpack, warm water and a tiny drop of dish soap, and you just kind of
Okay.
go at it.
Okay. Good to
Don't be
know.
afraid to like drench it, and obviously try to do it in enough time that like before a big event that you'd see a big wet spot, let's do it right now so that that can start drying.
Yeah. Yeah. To give it a minute. I
Yeah.
actually had a bride once. You will appreciate this. She had this beautiful designer silk gown. And 2 minutes after she put it on, she decided to put on gel deodorant and dropped it on the
No.
front of the dress. And like we were running late. We had to get out of there. So I'm like, it's fine. Get on the limo. By the time you get to the church, I'm going to have something for you. And I literally called every cleaners I could find. And I'm like, how do I get this out? And one of them was like baby powder. Put baby powder on it, it'll soak the gel out. And we got to the church and now I carry baby powder in my
That
emergency kit,
works. So you put
you
the
know?
baby powder on and then what? Just
Mhm.
like wiped it off?
Yeah, you just kind of got to let it soak, kind of soaked the like grease up and then yeah, just brush right off.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That is really good. Yeah, another one, this is like really spur of the moment, but if you have a stain, especially if it's like a bigger style dress, it's even better for this, but taking a safety pin and like pinching the stain from the inside and then just
Yeah.
yeah.
Just kind of hiding it. I know. Yeah, a few years ago, do you remember when the dresses were really big with the pickups all over the
Yeah.
skirts?
Yeah.
That was like so
Oh,
convenient. When
so
bustles came
convenient.
out, I just like put a bunch more pickups in.
Oh.
Like, it's fine. They were the best. You could
Mhm.
hide anything on those dresses.
Yeah. Yeah. You could put little like emergency items throughout the whole dress, probably. No one would.
Yes, right? No one would even know.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's great. I interview brides on my podcast that I've worked with. I have the first episode of this year coming out pretty soon. But a common thing that I hear a lot from people is the advice that we all know is to like design your day to be about you. And you don't have to follow the
Yeah.
trends, you don't have to follow the traditions, and just do what you want to do. We all know that, but for some reason, I feel like we're always trying to like convince ourselves of that. But I'm curious from your perspective, how are you helping the couples design their day that reflects them the best? That's very personal.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big proponent of that. Like, this is your wedding and it should be what you want. And I kind of love that we have gotten away from like the must do traditions. Because I would say, even when I started in '09, it still felt very much like you had to do XYZ at every single wedding. And there were rules, and there were only females on the bride side and only males on the groom side of the bridal party. And I loved when I started to see that go out the window. That's how you make it your own. That's how you make it personal. If your best friend is a guy, he should be your man of honor. He should be standing next to you when you get married. And I love that people are able to do that now and kind of come away from the traditions a bit. I always tell my couples, you want to be cognizant of guest experience, and you don't want to do things that are strange or make the guest feel awkward or weird. That's kind of the line you have to walk, though. So I feel like you do still need to be a little bit traditional, but there's definitely ways to spin it to make it more of an experience, for you and your couple. So one of the cousins is getting married this year, and they were like, "We love cereal. So I think we're going to do a cereal late night snack, like a cereal bar." And I'm like, I love that. That's a fantastic idea. If I have a couple that's like, we both love cereal. Okay, we're not going to serve cereal for dinner. That's that line I'm talking about. You don't want your guests to be like, we had a cereal bar for dinner. But you better bet the guests are going to love a cereal bar at 10 p.m. Like, they're going to think it's the coolest thing they've ever had. So I like that you can kind of incorporate little touches like that. We had a groom last year that was really into golf. So all the place cards were little cutouts of golf balls that we like use tees to put into like a greenery wall. And it's just like stuff like that, like little nods to what's important to the two of you. Obviously, as I'm sure you know, we have tons of animals incorporated into weddings now, whether, the dogs are there in person, or, we have the dogs and cats in the cake, or cocktail napkins or bar menus. And I love that because, again, this is like their family, and it brings that into the wedding. And I think it's a great touch.
How can you still work within budget while planning a beautiful or meaningful wedding? Do you have any examples of a sacrifice for budget that still turned out great?
Yeah, I think that's a really hard question. And that can even be hard in our positions because we have a lot of couples that will bring us these photos of what they want. And it can be difficult at times where we're like, don't have the budget for that. But you try to pick out what's most important to them. Like, what is it in this photo you're really, really drawn to? And like, how do we work that in on maybe a smaller scale? If I have a bride, for example, that just wants peonies and orchids everywhere, but like she doesn't have the budget for it. It's like, okay, well, maybe your bouquet is solid peonies. Let's throw a bunch of money at your bouquet, because in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge chunk of budget. But is it an expensive bouquet? Yes, it is an expensive bouquet. So I think there's ways that you can kind of pick and choose how to incorporate, maybe on smaller scales, to kind of stick with your budget a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing is kind of going back to personalizing it. I think if you can personalize your wedding, you get a lot better experience overall anyway, without necessarily having to spend a ton of extra money. And I think it's good if you have a planner, that's where we can kind of direct you. I've definitely had clients where I'm like, you don't need that. It's not worth the budget. It's not going to make the impact. Nobody's going to notice it. So there's ways, if you have a good group of vendors, where, they can kind of steer you. Like florists, for example, will be like, don't put, a bunch of peonies up in your tall centerpieces. No one's close enough to them to even see them. You put them in the lows where they're in everybody's faces. if you work with a team of professionals, there's ways to stretch budget to kind of get what you want. Most of it being, being very thoughtful about where you put things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I'm not the only one that gives this advice, but I always say like focus on your three most important things that day, spend your money there, and then budget everywhere else.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what? That varies by couple.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the first steps we do going through budget, even to-do lists or even our checklist. We will orientate that to what is most important to them. Like if you really don't care about your cake, we're going to put that further down the list. We're going to budget less for it. If photo is the most important thing to you, we're hitting that first. And, we're going to give you a good chunk of the budget towards that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any guidance or tips for enjoying not just the wedding, but the entire engagement season leading up to it?
It's hard because planning a wedding is stressful. That's the reason people like me have jobs. So I would say first and foremost, if you can afford a planner, get a planner because they will make your job or the whole experience just so much less stressful and so much smoother. You just have someone that you can bounce ideas off of. You have someone direct you. Even doing budgets, if this is your first wedding and your family's first wedding, you have no clue what to budget for things. You can look online, but the budgets vary so greatly by region that pulling up an online website and then telling you, oh, this spend X on a band is not going to hold true to every market in the country. So I think if you're able to afford it, definitely get a planner because it will make it a much more enjoyable process. And then if not, the big thing is focus on what's important. The fact that you are getting married. At the end of the day, that is the biggest thing. And try to give yourself enough time so you don't feel overwhelmed and super stressed. And try to do one or two things at a time. I find that a lot of couples, they just feel like they have to hit the ground running, planning, and do like everything at once. Even when they're working with me, I'm like, pause. Like, we don't need to talk about bakery yet. You don't have a venue. Let's get your venue. Let's get your church. Get your date. Let's get photo. Let's get band. Let's get DJ. We got a lot to do before some of the other stuff, So I think that's a big thing too, is you just got to kind of step back a little, make yourself a checklist from the very beginning and kind of review that and see, what you have to do when. And I will say, I don't know if this is common, but I know my company, we do offer a kickoff meeting, we call it, which we don't do a great job of marketing. I should probably get this out there more, but hey, I'm getting it out here today, where basically you don't have to hire us for planning. You can hire us for a one-time meeting where basically we go through, just tell me about your wedding. What do you guys want? What are you thinking? And then we'll develop a budget and a checklist for you. And then you can take it from there. And maybe you don't have the budget for a planner, but just having someone at the very, very beginning kind of kick you off on everything, I think is just super invaluable. Because again, then you're not trying to tackle everything at the same time. We can give you a budget that looks reasonable because there's nothing worse than those couples that jump right in, book a venue, and then try to do their budget. Like, that's the worst thing in the world you can do, right? Yes, your venue takes up way too high of a portion for that budget where, people will be like, oh, I already booked my venue. And I'm like, you just dropped 80% of your budget on your venue. Like, we're not getting everything else for that. We need to have a frank discussion about upping this budget, So I think that that's a big thing too, is just try to be meaningful about it, take a step back, try to enjoy it. It should be fun. If you give yourself enough time, you should have time to get everything accomplished without it having to be too stressful. It can inherently be stressful though. There's only so much you can do about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's all part of the experience. I see that in here. And I try not to ask this question, but it just naturally comes up. Like, how is wedding planning going? Like, what are we working on? And you see their face just like drop like, oh, and I'm like, it's all part of the experience.
It all goes.
Getting married is just embrace those feelings, good or
bad. I think it's hard too, because I find it even with my own couples, like we'll have, and it's so natural, but like last week alone, I had calls with two of my June weddings for this year. And they both were like so worried about where they were at in their planning. And I'm like, let's just go through everything. So we just went through the checklist, updated everything. I answered their questions. And at the end of the meeting, they're like, oh yeah, okay, we're in better shape than we thought. I'm like, yeah, I got you. Like, it feels stressful, but like sometimes if you just make it a point to step back and look, you're like, oh no, okay, I'm way further along than it feels like I am. I'm in better shape than I thought I was.
More big picture thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Jennie, I really like your kickstart meetings. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, kickoff. Yeah.
Kickoff meeting. Yes. I think that that's really unique. I absolutely love that. It was immediately making me think of, I can't remember the name of it, but there's like a home decor or like home renovation site where you can like have a meeting with a really good,
Yeah.
I forget what it's called.
You know what's funny? Sherwin-Williams does that. When we were
Mhm.
picking paints for our new house, like, I mean, we moved like 12 years ago. But when we did, they were like, we'll send a designer in just to walk through the house and help you pick paints. And I'm like, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because we could go in a room and be like, I want gray. I don't want grayish. I don't want it to read blue. I don't want it to read green. Like, I just want gray. And they could be like, oh, yeah, here's the perfect gray for this room. But you're right, it is. It's kind of like, just get me going. Just
Yeah.
get me started.
Yeah. Although I can't remember the name of it, that site that I was just saying about the like home renovation thing. I
Yeah.
actually did that for designing my studio. I did just a 1 hour meeting with Grace, who is the daughter of Gene Stouffer. And it was so great to pick the brain of a really good professional without
Yeah.
paying for the full thing. And I felt like that was great. And I feel like I can relate this to planning a wedding, that just getting you down the
Sure.
right path from the start
Hmm.
would be so helpful if you
Yeah.
can't afford the full planning and coordinating and all that. But
Yeah. And I mean, look
kickoff
behind
meeting.
you. You did a fantastic job. It worked out well.
I'm trying. It was a lot. It was a lot to do, but we're on the other side now. Feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it totally. I'm in my home office, but yeah, the one that we have in Rochester it was quite a process when we first got that space.
Yeah. Do you still have a physical space?
I share space with STEM event design. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yes, yes, yes.
we have
Okay.
joint space with them,
Oh,
which works
awesome.
out great. We do a lot of weddings together, and Kevin and I have been friends since we both started our businesses within like a month or two of each other and met each other pretty early on. And just it's been really nice to have someone that's kind of in a similar space as me and grew, at kind of a similar rate. And we're able to just bounce a lot off each other, and it's just really invaluable. And then it's nice to have the office, and we get to see him and the whole team, and everybody over there is so great. The only problem is I don't get nearly as much work done if I'm there because I'm like talking and I'm distracted by the flowers in the cooler and
Yep, I hear you. That's got to be really fun. That's got to be
yeah.
quite a fun office.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. And it always smells good in there because they always have flowers. So yeah,
Oh,
it's really convenient.
that's great. I want to just shed some light just for a second, a little bit more about working with your team, especially for other wedding vendors that might be listening to this podcast, and just
Hmm.
shedding some light on how do you feel about being a business owner and manager for a full team? What have you found has been really great? What are some things you're trying to
Yeah.
work on? Just give us an inside scoop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really fortunate that kind of everyone that works for me currently pretty much all started as like an assistant and kind of worked their way up. So it's just great because it gave them a chance to try the job, gave me a chance to make sure they fit the vibe of the company and just kind of develop that relationship and, grow them from there. It definitely can be challenging having a team because at the end of the day, even though my name isn't on the company, I'm still very associated with the company, and it can be difficult to trust your business to someone else, and it took some getting used to. But if you get the right people in place, I mean, my team, they're fantastic. Like, I have zero concerns and I get nothing but great feedback on everyone. And I'm very, very fortunate in that regard. But, I think a lot of it is we're all similar personalities and we all kind of operate the same. We each have our strengths and weaknesses, and we can play off that, which is good. So sometimes it just makes you stronger as a whole if you have a whole team behind you, that you can, have people to bounce ideas off of, or if someone else has a strength that you don't, it's nice to be able to have that establishment. And even like we all use the same prep documents, and sometimes I'll see, one of my other coordinators prep, and I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. Like, we need to put that on the master document because I didn't think of that. And nice you have that spot. So it's nice to be able to have multiple people kind of contributing to the ideas too.
Well, I think that's a huge advantage to the couples too, because first of all, you have so many backup options. If God forbid someone got like really sick right before their wedding, you have someone else that can just slide right in.
Yes.
And then, like you just said, multiple brains better than one. So if there's an issue on the wedding day, you have so many people you could call to be like,
Oh
what do
yeah.
I do right now? So that's a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, it's been helpful. Actually, during COVID, that was super helpful when we were having to test all the time, or if we had someone that found out they were exposed, 3 days before, like, we'd have 2 Saturday weddings. You find out on Wednesday between the two that you had been exposed at the weekend before. And it was really, really handy to have a team in that moment. And
Yeah.
even all the postponements, as people were postponing, we were like, sure, what date do you want? Sure, what date do you want? And we were just slotting people in everywhere. And then it was like, you know what? As a team, we're just going to take a breather. We're going to look at this mess,
Yeah.
and we're just going to figure out who's doing all these weddings.
Much closer to the wedding date, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was a labor of love. That's for
Well, I
sure.
know
But
this year I met a couple of your employees.
yes.
I met Keely, whose sister Hillary was getting married.
Yep.
Adorable. Loved her. Their whole family was so sweet. And then now Rachel Long, I just chatted with her on
Yes.
the podcast. She was fabulous and she was talking about you.
I love Rachel. I've known Rachel for a really long time, actually, through
Yeah.
various avenues. So
Yeah.
we're very fortunate to have her on our team. And Keely is like, she's like my right hand. I couldn't do it without her. She's just
Yeah.
fantastic. Actually, early on in my business, I had a Keely. Her name was Nicole, which if Nicole listens to this, hi, Nicole, still love you. Still one of my favorites. And when Nicole had to leave for personal reasons, it was like my world dropped out from under me. You know what I mean? And then like few years later, Keely came along, and Keely just started rapid fire growing. And I was like, oh man, this is my new Nicole. Like,
Yeah.
I got another Nicole. I got another right hand woman. So,
Reincarnated Nicole.
yeah. Yeah, I am very fortunate though. I do. I have a fantastic team. And, when I was doing my master's, one of the things that one of my entrepreneurship professors told me, which really stuck out, was as a small business owner, your goal should be for your business to run without you. Like, that should be your ultimate goal. You should not need to be there for your business to run. And I took that to heart, and it took a long time to get there, but I'm at the point now where it does. It's a great feeling. I love the fact that, especially more so in the last couple of years, beautiful day planning isn't necessarily only known as me, especially Keely. A lot of people associate the company with Keely now, which is great. I love that it's not just Jennie and she has people working for her. It's becoming where more and more of the crew is getting recognized, and they handle all their own clients. So I know, like, the way we're set up, I get an initial lead. If Keely is going to be the one doing the wedding, they talk to Keely from the first moment on. I do the initial contact. That is it. So they're not associating the package with me. It's Keely. That's who beautiful day planning is to them. And I love that. I love that's kind of what this has grown into.
Yeah, really solid team. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be wrapping up here soon, but I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Just first thing that comes to your head. Okay, a cozy rehearsal dinner or sparkly big welcome party?
Oh, I like cozy rehearsal dinner. You got the sparkly, crazy chaos the next day, man. Focus on the quiet, the intimate. Have fun at your rehearsal dinner on a smaller scale.
Yes, I agree. What is your favorite way to help a bride pause and breathe on the wedding morning?
I think the biggest thing is just purposely taking a moment to stop and breathe. And not only in the morning, just I try to tell my couples at some point today, take a second and breathe and absorb it a bit, because it goes so quickly and you're in the moment and you're getting pulled along. And I find a lot of couples, you blink and it's over, and if you make it a point to like stop and breathe, and I kind of like to do it as a couple, like the two of you take a minute, absorb, look around. That's why I'm a big fan of like first looks of rooms with the couple before everybody gets in there and destroys everything, because it not only lets them see what all their hard work created, but it gives them that moment. Like, breathe for a second, look around, absorb it before, you get swarmed by 200 people again.
I think you might have just answered this, but what's one detail couples always forget, but you'll never let them skip it?
Yeah. Stop and
That
breathe.
would be it.
Stop and breathe and absorb it a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. You put a lot of work and effort into this. Most people, it's 18 to 24 months of labor. And, you want to take a second to breathe and absorb and enjoy what you put all your effort into.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the first thing you do when you arrive on a wedding morning?
Check in with my bride for sure. Make sure everything's all set. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As far as even when I get to the venue, first thing I do is check layout. That's number one in my book. First thing I am doing is looking to make sure everything's set up the way it's supposed to be. And if the chairs are out, I'm doing a chair count right off the bat too. Because there's nothing worse than like getting busy and then doing a chair count, realizing some of the tables are wrong. And everything's set, and like then you're pulling place settings and adjusting, and it's the worst.
Would you prefer laid back couples or super detailed couples?
Honestly, I kind of like a mix of both, to tell you the truth, because I think that there's pluses and minuses to both styles. I have some couples that know exactly what they want, and it's just a matter of making it come to life. And then I have others that are like, no, I trust you. Here's my colors, and I don't know, show me what we can do. And honestly, I get joy out of both. So I would never want to work with one or the other solely.
Yeah. What is your go-to playlist for wedding day energy?
Oh, it kind of depends on the wedding. There are weddings where I'm classical all the way. If I have an AirPod in when I'm doing setup, it is classical music on it because that's the vibe I need in the moment. You know what I mean? I need the calm, the focus. And then there's others where, I got like Panic at the Disco rocking in my AirPod as I'm doing setup. So it goes both ways. It definitely depends on the wedding.
You got to match the vibe of the wedding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
in the mood.
Pretty much one way or the other. It's either rock or classical.
What is one wedding tradition you really love seeing every time?
I don't know that it's a tradition per se, but I'm going to call it the first look. I think it's becoming more of a tradition now than it was. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I find that it results in a much more genuine moment between those two people because undoubtedly one of you is super nervous, if not both of you. And I always tell my couples, like, you're marrying this person because you kind of like them. So, like, let's spend more of the day together. It's just you see them earlier, you do the rest of the stuff together. So instead of being, apart till 5 o'clock, you're seeing each other at 1 and you're doing all your photos and you're together and you're enjoying. It gives you more time to absorb what you're doing that day too. That's still my favorite. It's always going to be my favorite.
That's great. And you know what? I think our listeners would so enjoy another podcast with you that will probably never happen, but just all the oopses that have happened on wedding days.
Oh,
and sharing
gosh.
story after story. People ask me that all the time. They're like, you work with
Oh,
weddings?
man.
Like, what are your crazy stories? I'm sure you hear that all the time. But
Yeah.
can you share with us just one oops moment on a wedding day that you can remember?
Yeah, so it's funny. I used to, when blogs were really popular, I actually probably could do a vlog now on this, but when blogs were really, really popular, I used to write one every year of the things that had gone wrong the year before and how we had fixed them. And it was so entertaining to me because no one ever knew that it happened at their wedding. I shouldn't say never. Very rarely they would know because it was something they had seen or, we'd lost a tier of a cake or something they had to know about. But the vast majority of this stuff, nobody knew what would happen. It's actually funny. I did day of coordination for a wedding vendor who I will keep nameless in this just to protect her. But her wedding, she had more things go wrong than any wedding I have ever done in 17 years. And it wasn't planning. She planned everything great. It was really random things going wrong the whole day. And the culmination was when it was at Stony Creek Metro Park. And when I got a call from the limo, the shuttle for the end of the night, like 30 minutes before the wedding ended, and he was at the wrong Metro Park. He was like, I can't find you. And I'm like, cause you're not at the right Metro Park. And I didn't know, but the Metro Park gates get locked at sundown. So it meant I had to get a hold of the state police to get the gate unlocked so this limo could get in. And like, I'm trying to direct him and I'm like, forget it. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to meet you at the front gate and I'm going to drive you back to the venue. And it was so funny because we like pulled up to the tent right as the wedding was ending and nobody knew. And it was funny because years later, her and I were working on a client's wedding together and we were doing a site meeting and the client made some comment. She was like, oh, you're good. Like nothing went wrong with my wedding. My wedding went perfectly. And I kind of like laughed under my breath and she heard me and she was like, what? And I'm like, nothing. And she was like, no, what? And I'm like, nah. Like, I guess I could tell you, it's been like 3 years, but I'm like, so many things went wrong. Your wedding was the worst they have ever done. Like, so sometimes you just have those weddings and those days where like, like, of course you're at the wrong Metro Park because that's how today is gone, like just random stuff going wrong. But you're right. I could fill like a whole podcast on just that.
Yeah.
And they'd be really entertaining stories too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to do that someday. Get a bunch of wedding vendors.
Yes.
Maybe not together, but get little clips of just like the
worst
stories.
Yes, you should totally do that. Just like make a compilation of like, there's 2 or 3 things everybody's had that's just crazy stories, because you're right.
Freak everyone out.
You're right, it would. It would. You know what though? might mean a lot of damn coordinators get booked, to tell you the truth,
Yeah,
because
true. Yeah, that's true
like
too.
they're all examples of things you don't want to deal with. And I have to say this, not only do you have coordinators, like the goes back to the awesome Detroit wedding industry. Like photographers will jump in, videographers will jump in. You would jump in if you were on site. And,
Absolutely.
you saw a floral fall over. I have no doubt Sarah would go over and grab
Oh,
it and be putting back
yeah.
up. You're like, I got this.
Yeah. I've
It's
straightened
fine.
up plates and place cards before. No,
Yes.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm doing something. So
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like if I'm there, I'm going to do something. And I feel like to be in this industry, you have to be some slight level of OCD. Like you
yeah,
just have to be.
yeah.
So it's norm where we'll all go around and like,
Go
I'll be talking to a DJ and I'm like adjusting a charger, just the way my head works,
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough, Jennie. Thank you so much for all of your insight and chatting with me this morning. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you would like to share?
No, I appreciate getting the chance to talk to you. It's fun to go through everything and it's fun to do like this off season,
Yes.
type stuff when we have time to kind of, enjoy our jobs and
Yeah.
absorb and reflect on the industry and what we do. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. One last thing. How can couples find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So beautifuldayplanning.com is probably the easiest, or, my email's the main one listed is just Jen at beautifuldayplanning.com. Easiest way to get to us through me. And then, like I said, we'll figure out who's the best fit for your wedding and filter you out to the team.
Fantastic. What would be your recommended first step in reaching out to you? Do you want them to email or?
Yeah, email's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, email's perfect.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jennie.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much, Jennie, for being on the podcast. I do want to point out one thing to you listeners. We did talk briefly about Kevin Miller with STEM Event Design. She shares the studio space with him and his company in Rochester. I did interview him on the podcast, and I should have said that. So I'm just going to tell you the podcast episode number is number 59 if you want to listen to that episode where I interview Kevin. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode has allowed you to approach the world with greater confidence in your own personal style. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out through email or the inquiry form on the website. I hope you are all ready to go and get dressed up. I look forward to sharing more dressing up tips with you in future episodes. Thanks so much.